Hey, what's up guys, my name is Cherno and welcome to episode 13 of the Sparky Game Engine series. So last time we created a transformation stack in our renderers. So in case you guys missed what that awesomeness was about, it was all about this transformation stack and having the ability to basically push a matrix to the renderer and have it render all of its components, all of its renderables with that matrix in mind, so that we could apply basically a bunch of rotations to a group of objects. Now, all this stuff is good, right? Having this transformation matrix is fantastic, but it's kind of not really useful unless you've got groups. So we're going to talk about groups. So last time, this is what we had last time, we had a bunch of matrix operations and we talked about how the transformation stack is going to work. Today we're going to talk about groups. So what are groups? Well, groups are very, very simple. Groups are simply groups of renderables. So instead of us having a normal renderable, which just has everything it has inside it, it's got everything that we need to render it, as we know. In our case, it's got a position, a size, it's got all that stuff. A group is a renderable, right? It's just that a group has a vector of its own renderables. So these can also be known as children, okay? So a group has a bunch of children. Now, that is really it, right? The only other thing the group has, which is kind of important, is a group has a transformation matrix for its children. So it will have some kind of matrix, okay? It'll have some kind of matrix. Okay, that's really the only way it differs from a renderable. It has these two extra features. It's got a vector and a mat4. Now, the question that will probably come up is, how do we actually render groups, right? And what happens to the size and the position and all that stuff? Everything gets stored in a mat4. That's totally okay. When we create a group, we just create a group and we add all this stuff to it. It's a renderable. That's all we need to know about it. But it does become a bit different, okay? So if we go out over here, I'm just going to, under layers, I'm going to create a new item called group.h. Okay, Pragma wants that. Steal our namespace. We'll have a renderable, so I mean, we have to have that because renderable. So class group public renderable 2D. So it has, as I mentioned, a vector of renderable 2Ds. Okay, so I'll call this m renderables, and it has a matrix called transformation matrix. Alright, that's it. Other than that, it is pretty much identical. Now, the other thing we have to realize is the groups traditionally do not actually have positions, right? So if we look at renderable 2D and whatnot, we see that we have position, size, color. These are not things that a group has, though. Okay? A group doesn't have those things. A group instead has a bunch of children. So what I'm saying is that groups themselves do not actually get rendered, right? Groups do not get drawn. Groups' children get drawn, not the actual group itself though, which is basically making me almost rethink my whole design of having all of these things, right? All of these positions and oh my goodness, here we go. Position, size, and color, right? Well, that's okay. That's a chapter for another day. We might talk about that in maintenance and whatnot, but right now it's totally okay. So what needs to happen though is we need to adjust this renderable to basically have something called you might want to call it like submit or something, or render. You can call it render as well. But what this will do, what this void, and it will definitely be virtual, and it will definitely be okay, so we'll refactor this in a minute. We probably won't be pure. We'll just go render. So it takes in a renderer. Let me quickly include that. we might not be able to actually. So ignore that. Okay, so it takes in a renderer, and what it will do is it'll hit up renderer dot. So by default, if we don't override it, it should just go something like renderer dot submit this. Okay, that's what it should do. So it should submit the current renderable to the renderer. Okay, I doubt we'll be able to include the renderer though, because of the fact that a renderer also includes renderable. So what we could do is just declare it as a class like this, and then in the C++ file, which we don't have, so inside batch renderer, we'll include renderable. Same with simple renderer. Okay? That way we avoid recursive inclusion where we include each other. So we can't have a renderer include renderable and renderable include renderer, because that way, well, it's just like an infinite loop, right? Okay, cool. So anyway, that aside, where are we? Okay. We should probably declare this in here. Okay. Anyway, now that we've done that, we should go into our renderable. And now that we've got renderer 2D, yeah, that's really all it's going to do. Okay, it's going to be virtual though. We can totally override it, and we probably will. So now that we've got this, we should go into our group. It does do that, and it will actually override the submit that we have. Oops. Okay, so it'll be overriding everything. And what it will do is a little bit differently than what the default implementation does, which just basically submits it. So one thing I should mention is that in our actual layer, when we do this stuff, this is where it kind of changes, right? Because now we don't call renderer.submit for each renderable. We actually call renderable.submit with the renderer. Okay? We will call end and begin on the layer though. That's really important as well. We don't want to be calling that every time or whatever. That will still happen on the layer, but the submission will happen like this. So we've basically just reversed it a bit, which is pretty cool. But now the renderable is actually in charge of how it gets submitted, not the layer, which is an important an important distinction as well with how the system will work. So if we add the group.cpp file so that we can actually implement everything now. Let's see. So we've got our include group.h. Constructor will most likely do nothing. In fact, I have a constructor, but it will probably do nothing. Yes, so one thing we have to do for our renderable is actually create a protected default constructor, which is basically does nothing. Okay, so this is protected though, so we won't be able to use it anywhere else. But we basically don't set position, size, and color because we don't need to. So out here in group, we've got this now, so that does nothing. I could have probably left that in the header, but submit is where all the fun stuff happens, because this submit is obviously going to be a bit different than the submit in our normal thing, okay, which was in I'm terrible at switching between classes, but in here, okay, cool. So this is where we had the normal submit, and all I did was submit this. This is going to do something a bit different. It's not going to submit itself. Instead, it's actually going to go through everything and submit everything. So if we go for basically each renderable 2D that we have renderable in M renderables or M children or whatever you want to call it, we'll basically just go ahead and say renderable dot submit. So we're just calling submit on it, right? And we submit it with the renderer. And the renderer, of course, is this thing. Okay? One more thing we need to do, though, obviously, to include all this transformation stack, is use the transformation matrix we have here and actually basically push it to the renderer's stack. So push that and then pop. Okay? So that's how it works. Again, it's really simple, and it's pretty straightforward. But that is how submit works, and that is pretty much the story of groups. Okay? We could have called this children or something, M children or something. I just called renderables to keep it kind of more generic. But that's the idea. So now let's test out groups and make sure everything's working. So if I include source, graphics, layers, group. We tried to make our button thing last time. That didn't really work out, obviously, because we hadn't, well, it wasn't supposed to work out. Okay, we're getting a lot of problems. What's up? Oh, this sounds like recursive inclusion or something. I'm pretty sure I avoided that, though. Okay, so buffer is an undeclared identifier. Batch renderer, we're including that. Oh, because renderable probably includes that as well. That should be fine. And in batch renderer, we've got so we include the renderer and that's it. So we don't include whatever renderable. Where's that included in? Renderable. Oh, the renderer includes that. Okay, so the renderer includes the that's the renderable. Okay, so that's the renderer. The renderer includes, it doesn't include renderable, that does. We don't need the implementation of that though, I'm pretty sure. I hate tracing these things. It's a bit annoying and it takes a bit of time. So that's fine. Okay, well, let's include vector. That should get rid of some of the problems, I believe. Or not. No, it did get rid of some of them. Okay, so it's saying mbuffer is undeclared. Mbuffer is in batch renderer though. So what does renderable do? So renderable includes renderer. What if we got rid of that? I don't think that would help. No. Includes are pretty messy. Renderable 2D. So we do need that. Oh, I know what the problem is. Yeah, so renderable 2D didn't just have that, it also had vertex data. So we need to make sure we do that as well. I'd much rather do it the other way around. Yeah, here's what we'll do. We'll cut this out completely. We'll go into batch renderer. We will include renderable 2D, which will screw everything up, as you'll see in a minute. We'll build that, we'll see it fail. Or succeed. Either way is fine. And if we go into yeah, so that's totally okay because of the implementations. So that's all right. But here we go. That was our last thing, right? We had this problem where, well, we didn't have a problem, but we basically wanted this to be relative to that. We wanted it to be inside it. So what we can do is we can basically have a group, right? And we can add this button to the group. So if you take a look at this, layer.add button, we had all that stuff. So what we can do is we can make a group, okay? One thing we definitely need to do though is somehow set this transformation stack. So we probably want to, I don't know, we probably want to have some kind of, like, yeah, we'll take in a matrix probably. I kind of don't want to do that though. Yeah, so I guess we'll just take in const mat for transform. Okay, so yes. All right, so that's the plan. That's how we get it to be. So what we do need to do is when we create the group, we give it the transform of, say, this, which is kind of what we wanted it to be. So we push in a mat for translation, say, -15, 5, 0. Okay, there's our matrix now. Then what we do is we add this button to the group at 0, 0 now, because it's relative to the beginning of the group, right? And okay, so we need to add the add method. And then finally we add this sprite, which is relative to the other one, to the group as well. And then we go ahead and we add the group to the layer. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Yes, so let's create this group on the heap. All right, and then let's make the add method for group. So void add renderable 2D renderable. Yes. So inside group. So renderables dot pushback renderable. Okay, cool. So there we go. Needs more arrows. So if we just take a look at this, the button should now be inside, as you can see, this thing. Now, what if we want something inside this? So what if we want a group of groups? Is that possible? Well, of course it is. So what we can do is, if we wanted that to be a group, we could create a new group, or in fact, just be like group add new group. Actually, we would have to make it a new group. So we could have, so group, let's just say, so that's that group. And then we have a button which is a new group at say let's just say what was it, 0.5, 0.5, 0. We don't need these maths things. Okay, so we have the new group that is the button in here. So we add the button. It doesn't matter how you do this, by the way. It doesn't matter the order that you do this in. But we have this, which we basically add into this group. So we add it into the button. This is where it starts getting complicated, but nice. So just 0, 0. And then if suddenly I want text inside that button, for example, offset by a bit, I can add a new sprite that might be at like 0.5 relative to that, and with a width and height of like 3.1 or something. It doesn't really matter, and we'll make it like white. No, we already had white. We'll make it like blue. Well, in fact, we'll just make it like a nice blue. My favorite blue. All right. A lot of stuff going on, but there you go. So now you can see that's relative to that, that's relative to that. Everything's relative to each other and everything looks good. Now the cool thing is, again, we could say our matrix is just a translation matrix. We could actually say make it a rotation matrix. So we could rotate it by 45 degrees on the z-axis and multiply it with our translation. I keep forgetting that we don't need maths here. And you should see that everything is totally, as you can see, translated correctly. Okay, and we probably should have done it the other way around, by the way. All right. Right, so we can see that it's everything gets rotated relative to each other, and if we wanted the other one to be rotated the other way, I don't know why, but if you wanted that to be the case, you could be like, I want this new group to yes, I want this new group, for example, to be not only offset like that, but rotated another 45 degrees or whatever, right? And then you can see that I probably just should have gone -90. And now you can see, whoa, you can see how that's just rotated now as well. And of course I should have done it the other way around. All right, there we go. So you can do some pretty crazy stuff like that. Let's take it back to what it was before though, because that was much simpler for people to understand, I bet. But I think generally it should be pretty good. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode. Wait, what am I? Okay, so we had the transformation matrix just being, I think, like that. Okay, let's just get rid of that. All right. There we go. Cool. So that is how groups work. It's pretty cool. It's pretty simple. If you guys enjoy this episode, please hit the like button. Next time we're going to take a look at loading in images and continue on. So if you guys enjoy this episode, please hit the like button. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Whoa.